Good evening. Welcome to I'm in Transition Ministries community conversation. Our mission is to save lives from overdose by extending a hand of hope. Each week, we discuss and analyze methods and resources that will help you on your road to recovery. We are your hosts. I'm Vanessa Lee, and I have with me
Katrina Rain.
Patricia Ray. Awesome. Today's conversation is about family matters. And really, it's family and loved ones matters. And we're talking about breaking chains and enabling. So, guess what? We're your special guest today. And so we're going to have this conversation. For those of you who are on Facebook or YouTube or any other social media platform, please, please, please include your comments. I can include your comments because we want to include you on or in the conversation. And so again, we welcome you and we are so excited to have you. Katrina, did you want to add anything?
No, I just want to tell everyone that I'm glad to see you all. I didn't get to see you for the next episode, but I am glad to see you this evening. Welcome and enjoy the show. Thanks for joining. And definitely comments or questions, for us to reply to, or if there's any information you would like for us to read off for the viewers.
Okay, great. So, one of the things that I realized is at the top of the year, Katrina, we started talking about, really identifying the stages of abuse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about that for 2 weeks. And so, what that required, so that people could get on their road to recovery, you can't ignore. I can't ignore. You can't ignore. We can't ignore certain behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what started to strike me during that conversation, and really it started to touch my heart, was those times when we, as family, friends, and loved ones, become enabling. And so I have a presentation, but I just sort of want to get started with the conversation and let you guys know where I am and where we're going with this. And what was interesting is, excuse me, I ended up watching a television show with a friend, and the show was about a woman on drugs. And while I'm there or watching the show, the one thing that I realized is um, you could tell her family and friends loved her,
Mm-hmm.
and she's sitting, she's just sitting there. She is like nearly in comatose because
Mm-hmm.
of all the drugs that she uses. I think they said she was taking like 50. Hi Kelly, she's taking like 50 to 100 Percocet daily, and I'm like, you should be dead. God forgive me. And thankfully she's not. And and it just came across that the family was enabling her. And surely that's what happened. And come to find out that actually her mom gave her Percocet. So what happened is, I think she had been taking the drug for one thing. I think it was for her mental health. It was Percocet or some opioid type drug.
What was the name of the show?
Honey, now for those of you who don't know me, but for those
You
of
don't
you
know?
who, I don't know.
Okay. Just all viewers
It
may
was on
want
YouTube. It was on YouTube. And so,
Okay.
yeah, it was a YouTube show. And but what ended up happening is the mom ended up giving her some additional Percocet. And what was interesting is the mom, the reason she had the painkillers is because the mom needed them. And
Hmm.
so she ended up giving her daughter the drugs. And it just ballooned. And then she ended up getting married, and it was just a lot. And one of the things that I gathered out of it was enabling. And eventually someone had to step in to say, okay, guys, enough is enough. And so I decided, you and I had the conversation about, having this discussion and
Hmm.
and I guess it's really a self reflection. Like, what am I doing something that's enabling this, this behavior? And so
Hmm.
let's talk about it. As always, yep, Percocet, thank you. And it was for pain. And so, but it's addictive. And so let's talk about it. Let's talk about what is enabling, what's not enabling. And where I'm going to start is I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint slide. Can you guys see it? No, you can't because I didn't share my screen.
We can't see it yet. And I just want to say hello, Kelly. Hello, Kalita. All of our viewers. Tora, thank you so much for chiming in.
Hi, Tora. And so, Trina, I can't see the comments. And so feel free to jump in. And so when I created this slide, I wanted to convey the message that we are all in this. This is family. We have friends who are on drugs or alcohol, family, friends, loved ones, and it affects us all. Not one nationality, race, or gender is untouched by this, and even faith for that matter. So here's a quiz. When we talk about enabling behavior, I want if you're taking a look at this, if you see this tonight or if you see this a month from now or a year from now, take a look. And here are a couple questions that I want you to respond to. Okay, so do you ignore your child's or loved one's negative or potentially dangerous behavior? Do you ignore your child or loved one altogether because you're attempting to avoid the experience? By chance, do you make excuses for your child or loved one? By chance, do you put your child's needs before your own? For example, your own mental, emotional, or financial health, because you're covering for the person. By chance, do you have experience? Excuse me? Do you have difficulty expressing your emotions? Do you blame yourself, others, or even other situations, but never your child or loved one? It's always someone else. It's never them. Ever. And then do you financially support your child or loved one? And to the extent that it becomes a detriment to you and a detriment to yourself or detriment to your loved one. So this is a good starting point. This is a good starting point. And for those of you who may say, well, I'm supposed to help my loved one with finances, I understand. For those of you who may say, well, I'm blaming someone else and I'm blaming the situation because my child had it hard. Okay, they did, but at some point we become an adult and we become adults and we have to accept our consequences for certain behavior. And so I realized that a lot of people struggle with understanding the difference between helping and enabling. And so I gave you a couple minutes to answer those questions, but I also want to give you some more information because if by chance you are assisting and enabling, and it really might be genuinely because we struggle with the difference between helping versus enabling. So here you go. Take a couple notes, guys. This isn't on the slide, okay? So enablers avoid discussions and confrontations while enablers address specific disruptive and unproductive behaviors. Avoiders, they avoid discussions and confrontations. And so that goes to the point where the family, friends, and loved one, they just avoid the person at all. And we've all been there. You don't want the drama, you don't want the headache. I totally get it, but the issue is that it's still there, it's still affecting us, and we're not having the tough conversation, okay? So here's another example. Again, the difference between helpers and enablers. Enablers try to soften the consequences of events while helpers ensure that each negative behavior is followed by a consistent consequence. As the saying goes, you got to pay the cost to be the boss. And there's a cost to our behavior. If I do something, then there needs to be a cost. If you do something, there's usually a cost. If I spend my money poorly, there should be a cost, because where do we learn accountability and a responsibility if we're always being bailed out? right? Next, enablers make excuses, cover, or even defense bad behavior. We're defensive of bad behavior, while helpers guide us toward accepting responsibilities for our behaviors. I'm going to say that again. Enablers make excuses, cover, or even have a defense for bad behaviors. We're making excuses for bad behaviors, while helpers guide us toward accepting responsibility. And to accept responsibility or to helping us guide towards it doesn't mean you got to always be banged over the head. It's just saying, hey, you know what? You got to pay the cost to be the boss. There is consequences to this behavior. We got to own up to some stuff. And then lastly, enablers hardly ever suggest behaviors changes. And if they do, it's indirect, while helpers are clear and consistent in communicating behavioral expectations. So enablers like to keep things vague. Well, if, maybe, when, possibly. Well, helpers are saying, okay, let's be clear. Let's be clear about the expectations. So I'm giving you all examples. I always love to use examples outside of I like to use examples outside of addiction, simply because I think there are a lot of parallels. Um, and so, for example, when I when I lived with my parents, right, as an adult. Now, you all may not agree, but I appreciate it. My mom made me pay rent every month. Air, I'm gonna say it like that, and I'm saying it exactly how I'm saying it. Air, E-R, month, not E-V-E-R-Y. Air, month, every month. My mother had me pay rent. It was a very clear expectation that in order to live here, you pay rent. She didn't ask much, but I had to pay rent. Now, because my mother is very consistent, when the time came she wanted to raise my rent, I said, now you know what? I'm paying for a bedroom. Now, but what you about to charge me? I can go get me my own apartment. Now, my mom is a wise woman. That was her intent. She was ready to push me out, of the nest a bit. And that's what I did. But because she set clear boundaries, I understood what I can do and what I could not do. In order to live there, I needed to pay rent. And I trusted my mother enough that I wouldn't want her to kick me out, but I trusted that she would, because she had set very clear boundaries. And so I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. And so I want you to again take a look at those questions, because again, now I hope it provides context concerning ignoring your child's behavior, being defense of it, making excuses for it or your loved ones. Are we avoiding it because we don't want to have the tough conversation? Are we sacrificing our own life because we're making excuses for them and not allowing our loved ones to feel the consequences of their behavior? And so let's keep going, because I won't be with you guys long. I just want you guys to think about some things so we can stop, get our loved ones and even ourselves the help that we need. Okay. Trina, you want to jump in? So Kalita says, I used to try to make up for the things I didn't do for my children when I was using by trying to buy their love, and I would excuse their behaviors out of guilt. See, Kalita, thank you so much for sharing. And she said, I would excuse their behaviors out of guilt, but I realized that I was only hurting them, and I didn't want them to live the life I had lived once I stopped enabling. And I started to set some boundaries and rules and made them look at their behaviors and where their negative behaviors could lead to negative consequences to begin to change. I hope I got that right, Kalitha. So we got to stop the excuses. So, for example, making excuses for why someone missed work, making excuses for why someone missed the birthday party or the family event, making excuses for why they're stumbling around the house or outdoors. We have to stop making excuses. And sometimes we just have to own it. Now, again, we don't have to own it in public. We don't have to own it where we are being derogatory towards someone, but we have to own it and stop making excuses. And sometimes that means if you did make it to work, I can't be your excuse. You have to own it, and you have to tell your boss why you didn't make it to work. And sometimes that may mean, no, we don't want people to lose their jobs, but is that, again, I understand. No, we don't. But at some point, if I keep making excuses for you, or I don't tell you that I'm now no longer going to be your excuse maker, then what it does is it enables you to continue because now you've already set up this lie. There's no reason for you to change. There's no reason for you to change because there's someone covering for you. Next,
I do want to chime in.
Go for it.
And let me know if I sound okay in the mic.
You do. You're a little low, but I hear you.
Okay. If the viewers, audience, if you guys can let me know if I sound okay on your end. I did want to chime in when it comes to the making excuses for your child. And I have a quick example regarding that. And that stood out to me because when I heard that making excuses for your child or just for a loved one, the older family member, someone, definitely who is struggling with opioid use disorder, it's accountability. Being accountable on both ends of the factor. The family being accountable for their actions and also their loved one who is struggling with the opioid use disorder, being accountable and again, just teaching different methods. An example that I want to give with accountability and how we need to start it at a young age. And this can go out for, even if we have like preteens, teenagers, young adults watching this, all the way up to our elderly this evening who's watching the podcast. Start focusing on accountability, how to be accountable for your role in your situation or what is taking place in your life or in your child's life. How did I play a part in this? And start correcting it, finding ways to correct it. And that's what we are here tonight. For example, I have a nephew. Okay. My nephew, he's young. And I want to make sure that I teach him accountability. Whenever he's in my presence, I want him to know what accountability is, what it feels like, how to own it, how to digest it, and also how to manage it as well. Even starting at a young age, he's only 7 years old. And also, for example, if they have siblings, that also helps them be accountable. He's the oldest. A lot of times we say, hey, you're accountable for the trash going out. Hey, you're accountable for, doing the dishes that night. And with him, with accountability and also with us to stop enabling, it takes a level, my opinion, a level of focus because we are distracted a lot. Like Kalitha was saying, we can't focus on our family members that need our help or on our children. So focus. And then let's work on accountability. I had put on the wall whenever he comes over, my nephew, he starts to get distracted. Okay. He gets distracted. He can't stay focused. I put a little marker on the wall. Okay. Like here, like on the wall where he puts his nose. And it's not a punishment, but anytime he can't control his emotions and he starts, flipping out or damaging, just having a tantrum, all over the place. And this can even just speak for, our older family members or younger family members, okay? Or even ourselves, okay? When it comes to any issues that we're having in life, is when he starts to become irate and he can't manage his emotions, which I can understand because he's young. And it's up to family members to teach children. Yes. It's up to family members to teach him how to control his emotions, control his focus. So I usually
and his response to his emotions.
Yeah, and how to respond to his emotions and understand what's going on. Okay. I'll put a dot on the wall and then I'll tell him, go to the focus wall. Go to the focus wall. So now you're about to be accountable. You're about to be accountable for having a tantrum or throwing over your breakfast plate or, still not necessarily seeing him, but if we have elderly family members, stealing, just for example,
Right.
go to the focus wall, time out. Okay. And that's usually what we can say, like, rehab is, it can be that focus point for the adult who's struggling with opioid use disorder, helps them get back focused. But my nephew, he has the focus wall because he's young.
Yeah.
He goes and he focuses, and I tell him to stand there, and I want you to focus. And I wrote the word focus above the dot on the wall. And I said, and I need you to spell that word focus for me. I need you to give it to me an example of what focus is.
Mm-hmm.
He'll say, focus is, Auntie Teresa say I need to learn how to focus, so I don't have a temper tantrum, stuff like that. And I'm like, all right, I'll take it. He's 7 years old. So he uses the word focus. I need to stay focused, so I can finish my goals. And afterwards I'll have a conversation with him. And I'll tell him, like, I'm proud of you. You went straight to the corner when I asked you to the focus wall. You didn't give us any fuss. You didn't give us any fight. You manned up. You took accountability for your actions, and you took accountability for the repercussions and the consequences.
Exactly.
Okay. So focus, know why you're focusing, then take accountability. And also, as the family members, we can also give praise during that area. Support is good because family want to give support, especially when we see they've made it, or our family members have made it over a milestone or a hurdle, especially when it comes to their opioid disease or opioid addiction disorder. And then afterwards, his little sister, whenever she acts up, he'll tell her, hey, you're gonna have to go to the focus wall. You got to stay focused. So it's more of a training your mind to stay focused and training your mind to understand accountability, So therefore he knows, okay, if you act up, okay, go to the focus wall. Now, if your little sister acts up, she's going to have to be accountable and go to the focus wall. And he asks her the same questions. So it just aligns, and it flows. And we have to understand the pattern, of breaking the chains, and why, when family does matter, and how we can stop enabling at a young age or even as an adult. And first line, my opinion, is first learn how to focus, know why you are being timeout or having to go to rehabilitation, or you just need to be isolated for a little while to get your mind together. And then take accountability, Stop making excuses for yourself or for your family members or for your children.
Yeah. And I appreciate that, Trina. I appreciate that because I think that it goes back to, I agree with you. We have to start training our children to take responsibility and accountability for their actions. Because I think that there's a gap there. Because I think what happens is, as parents, as loved ones, when things haven't been perfect and we feel as if we're as adults or parents or loved ones, in a lot of cases, we feel like we've created this. We created this problem. And so as a result, we're trying to overcompensate for the shortcomings that may have happened in the past. Like to Kalitha's point. Kalitha, if I, oh my gosh, I lost your comment. But you
I can read it for you.
And this was not the current one, but there was another one.
Let's see here. She has this one where this happened to my cousin.
I think it was with her original comment about how she was enabling her own children because of her behavior in the past. And Kalitha was in essence saying, you know what, I realized I was doing that because of what she had done in the past. And so she needed to own. Sometimes we got to learn it's something very important. You said we have feelings, we have emotions, and sometimes we're going to have to, and in order to have the tough conversations, we're going to have to own the fact that, one, my feelings are, I feel guilty about my part and my role in my child's development.
Mm-hmm.
You can't change what you won't acknowledge. So sometimes, so I'm gonna say it again. Sometimes we have to acknowledge and own and feel the guilt that we may have played in our child or loved one's development or behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But then from there, we have to say, well, I wasn't perfect as an adult raising my children, or whatever the case may be. I wasn't the best, wife or sister or grandparent or aunt or whatever. We can own that and then say, but I want to be a better mother. And in order for me to be a better mother now, and in order for me to be a better mother now, sister now, cousin now, husband now, I can't continue to enable them, because then I continue to offer and give and encourage that family, that loved one, to continue to not develop the way they need to develop. So as a social worker, there's what we call developmental stages, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you an example of developmental stage. So for example, I'll never forget in my first, I was like 17, 18 working, right? And I go to work and I'm expecting adults to behave a certain kind of way, right? I'm just expecting it. I'm thinking mature, sophisticated, just not childish.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I go to work and I see what appears to me to be teenagers, because based on how they're acting. And then I went to get my master's degree in social work, and when we talked about developmental stages and how some people don't progress out of various developmental stages and they get stuck,
Mm-hmm.
and they behave that way. But you can't grow if I don't allow you the opportunity to grow. If I keep you at that stage, you'll stay at that stage.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't hold you accountable, you'll stay at that stage. If I put it like this, if I don't put my boundaries up, then you'll keep doing what you're doing. And as an adult, my loved one can continue to do what they want to do. I just can't continue to participate.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my next point, which is we have to own our feelings, own our part in their development, own our feelings about how we contributed, own the fact of what we contributed, and then plan to have the tough conversations and know and accept the fact that this is going to be uncomfortable, and have the conversation. And then next, we want to set boundaries.
Yes.
Because when we set boundaries, we're saying this is acceptable behavior to me. I need to own what is acceptable behavior to me. And then my family member or loved one, then they can choose for themselves if they choose to operate within these boundaries.
Mm-hmm. And it's a clear path.
It's a clear path.
Yeah. When you have boundaries they're not just roadblocks or someone just putting blocks in front of you or hurdles in front of you or challenges in front of you. And a lot of times when we hear boundaries, that's what we feel, and we take it as a negative, in a negative way. I have to set boundaries. I just want them to be free. I just want them to express themselves. I want them to be free. But boundaries are necessary, because boundaries are also it also clears a path as well. So just like boundaries, it also sets a clear path, like you said. When we're on the freeway, you have some boundaries, especially when there's constructions. You can think of it that way. When there's construction going on and there's some repairing that needs to be done on the side of the road, you know what I mean, to make sure that maybe the workers, the construction workers, the engineers, they don't get injured by the oncoming.
There you go. Boundaries are not only the clear path, but they provide safety.
Right.
For all involved.
Exactly. They provide safety and for a clean, smooth path or direction, so that you don't have any uncertainty, so that everything is clear for you and mapped out for you, so you don't have any unnecessary deaths, any unnecessary trauma, any unnecessary overdoses, as Kalitha was saying in her comment over here. And I do want to read that, because it's very good. So boundaries are good. If you do not stand for something, you will fall for anything. So boundaries also help you not to fall. When they're doing construction on a bridge, and they have those I'm not sure what they're called, the blocks of concrete, the
Yes.
dividers that they put on the side of the bridge while they're doing construction, or when you're driving across the bridge. All right, let's say one of those is missing, we didn't take the appropriate step, you know, you can fall off of it.
You can fall off of it. And it
Yeah.
lets you know you can fall off of it. And then when you hit that boundary, it's a sign to you, I need to get back in line for my
Mm-hmm.
safety, for the safety of my family, for the safety of my loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
And so setting those boundaries hopefully they create peace of mind because you set the clear boundaries, you're clearly communicating what's acceptable behavior to you. And I really want to go back to safety.
Mm-hmm.
Drug use affects everyone.
Mm-hmm.
If you have children, they may not be able to express what they sense, but they sense the chaos in the home or in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, they may not say or express what they know is happening in the home, but you can be certain they know.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, they will know and understand what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for the family member or loved one who has to set the boundary,
Mm-hmm.
you're making it very clear to the other children or family members in the home that this is unacceptable behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yes.
you're communicating to
Mm-hmm.
not only the person who is using, but you're communicating to your other family member, the other children. This is unacceptable. And
It's a clear direction.
I don't want this around you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you around this. I don't want you to experience this. And in order for you to see your family member or loved one, these are the boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree with you.
Okay.
Um, and also in accordance with that, the whole mind your business statement, that runs rampant throughout our family, in neighborhoods, communities, city, state, county, country, nation, continent, globe, the
You
whole
are my business.
mind your business situation. Um, you as a family, your family is your business. You know, it is. However, the way we respond to our family member who is struggling, because we love them.
Mhm.
You can't mind your business. Oh, that don't have nothing to do with me. That's so and so child. And when we was at the family dinner, she didn't want to hear nothing I had to say.
Mhm.
Okay, so families get destroyed. Everything by this whole notion of minding your business. No, know what's going on. Don't be afraid to speak up. If you are that family member, like Kalitha said, that will sit on the outside looking like, yo, something's going on with my cousin. Their behavior has changed. Why are they so angry? Talk to them. Talk to them. And in this digital age that we live in, we grab our phones and we just sit here and text, and we have no verbal communication. So it's hard to communicate
Mhm.
our emotions efficiently. Like, I know one of your bullet points was difficulty expressing your emotions. Okay.
Mhm.
In a family setting or even in a community setting, you have to be able to express your emotions, you guys.
Mhm.
We're going to have to do more physical paper book
Mhm.
read rather than always on our digital devices, because we're losing our communication ability, face-to-face communication abilities,
Right.
especially the new era, the new generations coming up. It's a whole cancel culture.
Yeah.
Oh, I can cancel you. Oh yeah, I know you're my mom. I know you're my mom, but you said something I didn't like. I know you're my sister. I know you're my dad, but you asked me why my child is behaving this way. You asked me why my son always acting this way. That ain't none of your business. You need to mind your own business. No, it is their business, because
Right.
that's a family member and they
Right.
care about you, and family matters. And as a unit, A family is a cohesive unit for the progression of the community and also a progression for your bloodline. And also, even at church, to do God's work. Do not mind your own business. Step out and say something. Say
Right.
something. Feel something isn't right, say something. And if you are that one who gets offended when people start asking you questions, especially your family members, start asking you questions about their loved ones as well, about your child who may be their niece or their nephew or your or their granddaughter or their grandparent, you need to be a little try being a little bit more open and accepting the love that
Exactly.
they.
And this is where I was going to. So two things. I have someone that says, "Why are you in my business?" And I tell them, "You are my business."
Mm-hmm.
Now, and because you are my business, I'm gonna ask what I need to ask and say what I need to say. And we all know that it is in love.
In
And,
love.
and so with that being said, if you are the one that needs to step out, make sure your motives are in love and not nosiness.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's a motives check because people will ultimately feel love. And if they don't feel the love, you can have a reassurance that this was out of love, not out of nosiness. Because let's just be honest, there are some family members who just nosy, bless their heart.
Mm-hmm.
So nosy, no.
Mm-hmm.
In out of love, jump right on in. So I'm just asking everyone, say it. If you have to say it, but check your motives before you jump on in, because you are my business.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's that clear path of setting boundaries that, okay, what's going on? What I am seeing is unacceptable for our family and our lineage.
Yes.
And if this is because this is unacceptable, I want to make sure you get the help.
And also, Vanessa, to piggyback off of what you're saying, we have generational curses that flow in line with this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if we keep ignoring, and this goes for me too, you guys, you know, into our viewers, this goes for me too. It's been plenty of times I ignored family members who I know was struggling in the area just because I didn't want to have that confrontation with them because I love them. You know, a lot of times we look at confrontation as hate or bad. You know, sometimes another family member have an intervention.
Yeah,
You
have
know,
that intervention.
yeah, have an intervention with them because this can lead to generational curses if we do not address this accountability aspect and this enabling aspect.
So the Bible says two things: speak the truth in love. So when you speak, check your motives and make sure it's in love. And then it says, warn the unruly. And so in order for me to warn you, I can't ignore it and I need to speak up. In order for me to warn you, I can't ignore it. I have to be able to say, I see the path that you're going down, and it looks like, you know, you're going down a path of destruction. You look like you're going down a path of, and you filling your own blank. And I'll never forget this. And again, I always use other scenarios where I had a situation, I was working with someone and I wanted to ignore their bad behavior. And when I wanted to ignore their bad behavior instantly, because I just like with, you know, someone who's involved with opioid use, I just didn't want to deal with it. I got other stuff to do. You know, I don't feel like being stressed over something else. And I wanted to avoid it. And I just wanted to avoid it. I didn't want to have the conversation. And instantly the Lord took me to the scripture where it said, warn the unruly. And that was my level of responsibility to hopefully warn the person. And with that warning, hopefully I could have been another check, because we don't know what God is doing behind the scenes in someone's heart. And so if I come up, I can become, in particular, when I do the word of God, I become the voice of God for them. Not God, but it is the voice of God because it's the word of God. So you can't avoid it. You got to set the boundaries, because by setting these boundaries, by having this difficult conversation, I'm warning you. And I warn those who I love. Now, if I don't care about you, I'm not saying anything.
Yeah.
If I say nothing, I don't care enough. Or put it like this, where some people may say, well, it doesn't mean I don't care. Well, I don't care enough. So, Trina, let me know, do you want to finish now or finish this up in 2 weeks? How you want to move forward?
Well, let's see here. How many more pages in the bullet?
Really, actually, just one more. Just actually, it's just the final one. With that being
Oh,
said,
yeah, we can go ahead and let's go ahead and finish.
okay. So then the next thing that I want to encourage everyone is seek therapy, seek counseling if you need it. Whether you get the person who is using drugs in therapy with you or not, one person using affects the entire family. And as a result, you might be the person who needs the help. And so I want to encourage you, for those of you who are listening, if you work, a lot of places have EAP programs where you can get counseling for free. If you're working, your employer pays for that. Well, actually, you pay for that as a part of your benefit package. You or your employer is paying for it. It's paid for. Use it. I hope as an African American community, we are getting past the stigma of opioid use disorder, the stigma associated with it. We understand that there are chemicals in the brain that make us more susceptible to drug addiction, and so it's not a moral failing. At this point, if someone is using, we got to get past moral failings.
Mm-hmm.
We got to get to the person being healed and whole and healthy. Okay. And so not only do we need the person who's using to get healed, whole, and healthy, you may need to get healed, whole, and healthy. So seek therapy. It doesn't make you less because you need therapy. It doesn't mean that you don't trust God because you seek therapy. It's a resource. We don't have a problem with going to the doctor or the dentist because they have a skill set. Well, guess what? Mental health professionals have a skill set that can help you develop coping mechanisms and strategies.
Mm-hmm.
They're out there. One of the things that I realize is, and some of you may not like what I have to say, um, I really believe that a lot of our generation has, or early younger generations have not been taught a lot of coping mechanisms. So when stress happens, we don't know how to deal. Now, I admit from one of my biggest coping strategies is prayer as an adult, but I use journaling in the past. I use deep breathing for my emotions or anger. And so we oftentimes haven't been taught coping strategies, how to deal with stress, how to deal with the past trauma that I've experienced or the current trauma that I'm experiencing. And that's a skill. It's a skill just like a brain surgeon has a skill for operating on the brain. Mental health professionals have a skill to give you strategies to help cope. And so I encourage you to reach out to a professional for you, for your family, or for that loved one that's using. And so that's it for me. I just wanted to not beat anyone over the head, but really just to look at the difference between helping and enabling. And going back to that original slide, which is I'll show it as we end. Ask yourself these questions, and if you can say yes to just one of them, it's likely that you are enabling and not helping. And if you're enabling, we covered a couple strategies, but I encourage you to reach out to I'm in Transition Ministries, who is a phenomenal resource to you to get help for you and or your family. And the telephone number is 216-389-7413. Again, the number is 216-389-7413. And the website is www.iitministries.com. Give them a call. It's time for us all to get healthy. Love you. Trina, do you have any parting words?
My final word would be love your family. We're just getting out of I wouldn't say we're out of the pandemic, but we have a better understanding of it now and what directions, we each are going to decide to go on. And last year was rough for us. And majority of this year so far has been rough for us as individuals and rough for us as and for a family as a unit. It's been very rough. It's been very rough for me.
Yes.
So I'm sure it has been rough for you guys too. So let's start over. Let's reset. You know, this time, as we make our way back to family occasions, family events, being back around our family, the weather's getting warmer outside. So
Yes, it
now we can
is.
start having some picnics and baby showers and birthday
Weddings.
parties. So now that we're going to be around our family, the spring is coming or almost here. I love
Yes.
spring. I'm a spring baby.
Look, I'm a summer baby and I'm super excited about it.
I love the springtime. So the springtime is a new beginning, right?
Yes,
You
yes,
have
it is.
you have new what you say eggs. You have rabbits coming out, birds coming out, plants coming
New
out.
eggs makes
Just
people making babies.
yeah, trees. I was thinking of birds and eggs, and that's I didn't know how to correlate the two. I was like eggs.
Okay.
So everything is in full bloom. Trees are blooming, flowers are blooming. It's time to reset, you guys. So let's reset with our family as well. Let's start, by being accountable, like Miss Vanessa said, being accountable for our family members. And let's, don't be afraid to be like, hey, maybe I contributed to my family member with this issue. So therefore, let's come together and let's help them.
And stop it. And
Yeah,
stop
and
it and
come
not
together,
continue it for other
yeah,
generations.
for more generations. So, down the line, we tired of saying, oh, he's just like his daddy was. No, we're not saying
You
that no more.
crazy.
We are canceling.
That's the cancel culture for that. Yes.
Yes, cancel
I'm in
culture. Oh,
agreement.
he's just like his. Oh, she's just like her mama was.
I know
No,
it. Let's make that
let's stop
positive.
that.
No.
Let's stop that. And the way we stop that is by stop enabling and let's hold each other accountable for each other, not just for our actions, but let's hold each other accountable for each other as a
As an
community
act of love. As a community and as an act of love.
and as an act of love. So, again, I do want to say thank you guys for tuning in tonight to another episode. I missed you guys. Mwah, mwah. I missed you from the last episode. And I hope everyone takes care. Have a great, was it Hump Day Wednesday?
Yes, it is. Woo, over that hill.
and a great weekend. And depending on what part of the world you're in, enjoy some sunshine. Spend some
Enjoy
time with
some.
your family members. Hug them. Hug them no matter what they're going through in life. Hug,
Awesome.
physical touch.
Yes.
I read something and I can't recall where I read it from. And you guys can, look it up or Google it as well. But I read where social distancing, it can also lower your immune system, you guys.
Yes.
So now since we are back with our families, everything's starting to open up. Hug, embrace. That is the core. That is the
And get your
core.
vaccine.
Yes. Love each other, touch each other, build your immune system back up, you guys.
Yes.
It's been rough on us,
It's been rough.
Yeah,
But we're coming on the other side. We're coming to the other side in a positive
yes,
way.
we are.
Get
In a
your
positive
vaccine.
way.
Wear your mask. Double up your mask, everyone. We're doing great.
Yep. Alrighty. So again, thanks for joining us this week on I'm in Transition Ministries Community Conversation. I do want to give a special recognition to Ohio Mental Health and Addiction Services and the Cuyahoga County Adams Board. Thank you so much. I want to let you guys know to make sure to visit our website, www.iitministries.com. Check us out, send us an email over or follow us on Facebook. We do have a lot of great events coming up this summer that we would love for you guys to be a part of. And Facebook is at symbol. I'm in transition if you can't find it. And we do have a YouTube IIT community conversation channel. If you do like the content that we are presenting to you out of love, please hit that subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell so you are aware of any time we go live or when we have some additional information for you guys. I do want to say thank you so much for joining me and Miss Vanessa tonight.
Awesome. Make sure you post this on your Facebook page. Share this information because it can help someone.
Yeah, it can definitely help someone. God is good. You guys, make sure you keep your energy up. Positive energy, positive reinforcement, you guys. All righty. Bye.
Bye.